So here I am in the Ark, wishing you all a very good, happy new year, and to be very positive that this is a time for change. So I'm taking you on a lovely tour of my very verdant food garden. Now, there is a special reason why I'm making this video for you. It's more than to say happy new year. And in fact, what I'm going to do is take a cut in from this olive. And then you will understand in a minute why I've done that. This olive tree was torn from its roots by some machines along the side of the road, and I noticed they have some very good olives on them. So I don't know what the variety is, but probably the common variety around here, which is a Morut or Morad. And I am going to present a gift to the local Catholic priest. His name is Ivan, and I've been working on a small sculpture. So here we are, I'm entering the Holy of Holies in what I call the Ark of the Covenant. And I'm going to turn the camera around in a minute so you can see what I look like. But just before I do that, I'm going to present you some tools. These are green woodworking tools, various chisels and saws, and a small mallet, a little bit of sandpaper, and the actual gift that I'm going to present. Here it is. Take a look at that. So I've been burning particular marks on it and adapting it. I'm going to tell you a small story in a minute, but let me set the camera up so I can sit down. So I hope you can see me. Here I am in my African dress. This is a very beautiful gift I received from a woman called Kelly, who was running my farm in the Gambia. And it was on a subsequent trip, the second trip, where I'd gone there to volunteer. And I'd done a very good job. And so she took a very special liking to me. I wear it on dinner occasions. And I would assume it's West African rather than just Gambian. But the gift I have for Ivan, who's a Catalan Spanish priest, and he's a very lovely guy, and he's the one who actually inspired me to write that song, The Prophet. Inspired me on much profounder levels, and read my poem before I actually put music to it. And like a lot of priests, they have a pastor's role also, in that they negotiate between the outside world and the inner spiritual world, or the transcendent world. So I can relate to him in my limited Spanish. And every year I have a little tradition which I've started about 5 or 6 years ago. And that is, on my birthday, which is the 23rd of August, I select all those people in that previous year who have made that birthday very special. And generally, it's anything between 5 and 10 persons. I can't choose any more than that because it will dilute the whole experience. But the idea is that instead of them or anyone buying me a present, instead of celebrating my own personal birthday, I'm celebrating the relationships I've had in that year since my previous birthday, 1 year previously. So anyhow, in that 1 year, I'll choose maybe 5 to 10 persons. And this year, I chose Ivan. And there's his name, Ivan. So the story of this piece of wood is that when I was on a subsequent trip to West Africa, I had to pass through Senegal, going on the way back to the Gambia. I think I took a day trip out there. And I met green woodworkers in the country there, and it's a very beautiful place where they had natural salt lakes, and they cultivate salt. But they had a big tourist industry going, and there wasn't many people there, so everyone was trying to grab at me. And I allowed this one person to sweet talk me into buying special tool, which he had no more use for, because subsequently I learnt it was blunt. But he did a little carving in front of me and he gave me this. Now, that would have cost some tourist probably €5, and €5 to a West African is a lot of money, you know. So he gave me that, but the whole top half wasn't developed. And so it's been sitting for a few years in my caravan. I've been looking at it and wondering, one day I'm just going to pick up my green woodworking tools again and do a fuller job. And the opportunity came. And so what I've actually created here is taking this African face, and it's very African. But when you look at the origins of, say, the modern Christian movement, it's a long way from the dominance that a particular African bishop had by the name of Saint Augustine, who from about the 5th to the 15th century dominated the theology of the Catholic Church. So it's the Catholicism that we inherited in Spain and in various other parts of the world is very much based on that theology of Augustine's Augustine's own mind, if you can call it that, and wrote a very well, he was an immense writer, and probably one of the most popular books he wrote was The City of God. Anyhow, the point being, it was that time after the Roman Empire had been converted to Christianity, and Christianity gained in prominence. Saying that, though, it's not without its problems. You know, it wasn't an easy ride, not for St. Augustine either, especially from his hometown in North Africa. What I want to indicate here is not so much the African influence, but the spiritual, because dressed like this, I could be anybody. I could be a Muslim, I could be a Christian, I could even be a Hindu out there or something like that. I don't have any particular religion, but I'm educated in all of them, and I'm a prolific writer myself sometimes. I'm spiritual, and more than anything, I'm probably a mystic. So I can relate to Christian mysticism in the Middle Ages, and even at this moment in time, I'm looking at Jewish mysticism and form of Kabbalism and stuff like that, because I can relate to everything that is spiritual, and basically you find a spiritual in most religious movements. Not just religious movements, so environmental movements, social movements, you will find a spiritual in all of them. So what I've indicated here is just a little gift to Ivan, and it says something like 2021, Pater, Filius et Spiritus Sanctus, which is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And I've have the image of the head or the man, which in Jesus' own words would represent the Son of Man, if you can call it that. And the Holy Spirit, the fire, emitting from his head, you see? And in these inscriptions here, INRI, we have something of a Latin inheritance, which says something like Jesus of Nazareth, or Jesus the Nazarene, King of the Jews. And there's been various interpretations of that. Some people say it's actually not King of the Jews, but King of Glory, for instance, or just King. Yeah. In the Greek version, you would see IMBI, but in this particular Latin version, it's translated in Latin Iesus, Nazarenus, Rex, Denomus, which means King of the Jews. I'm hoping my translations are good there. I don't particularly speak Spanish, Latin, or Greek. But saying that, Ivan would understand that, and because he's a Catholic, and I'm hoping he would engage this imagery which is of an African. You can see the very pronounced nose and a very, almost like North African Egyptian beard there. Ivan has a huge beard on his face. A very lovable man. As I say, he's more than a pastor. He runs around between many different villages. So I'm going to present this to him. And finally, as a sort of farewell, maybe, I will go to Mass at some stage and present my case to him and try and illustrate to him that it doesn't matter whether I'm in a mosque or in a church or in a synagogue, in a temple or in an ark like this. Yeah, I put creation as my founder. I put creation as the source from which I was born from, and for which I will return. And creation for me is our evolution. Now, it's our evolution in life and in ourselves, in our individuality. So we must remember that in the Catholic version of the crucifixion, Jesus is portrayed as a suffering servant with a crown of thorns around his head. And it would have been ideal to put a little crown of thorns around something spiny, maybe a cactus rose or a euphorbia or something of the sort like that. That would symbolize the suffering that Jesus had gone through. But in my particular case, I want to give it that Greek appeal, because even though the Greek would actually convert that R to a B, and I can't read the Greek on this, but let's go back to the old tradition of taking an olive leaf or an olive wreath and placing it on the head of a champion or on the head of a hero. So that's my point here. And unfortunately, I've used a brittle piece of wood, and I'm hoping it's not going to snap, but it's going to be something like this. And God be with me that I do a good job on this. You see, I believe in God very much, but I believe God is the bridge to creation. So I'm going to do this and hide the inscription. For me, I follow the line of the prophets, as do the Muslims, and as do the Jews. And I don't need a particular religion because I can equate to the prophets. Yeah. So let me end on this beautiful note. Jesus Nazarenus Rex Eudaemonis, or Eudaemonum, which is King of the Jews, Jesus, the Nazarene or of Nazareth, hero and champion of the spiritual and of a long line of prophets up until this day, who can guide us and engage us in our most innermost thoughts. And we must not forget that when we next go to a temple or a mosque or a church or just a rock in the wilderness to pray or meditate, that we can equate to all the prophets of the past and the leading light and the nature of the Holy Spirit to come upon us and enlighten us in our thoughts. Happy New Year, and I'll see you again.